So, I've begun this Secret Door series from a few years ago. Now, I did this because mainly I really don't know at all much, alright, pretty much nothing about the Joseon dynasty. I think that's how it's pronounced, I'm not sure though. Um, Except, I did notice that this is a revisionist story, apparently, so it doesn't bode well. I guess, I mean, at least, Noron and Sauron exist. It very much sounds like a Lord of the Rings there, Sauron, except doesn't have an A and U, it has an O. Anyway, yeah, yeah, I needed something else other than, I don't know how I ended up watching a lot of, I don't know how I ended up watching rom-coms lately, so I need something else. I think this does that, there's nothing rom-commy about it, which is good, really. So, after the first episode, though, it's a bit, yeah, mixed thoughts about this. Uh, first of all, webbooks really banned. I mean, I tried to search about it, and there were only other people asking about it as well. So I'm assuming as part of the revisionist history, possibly. I mean, at one point it was mentioned that 400 years had passed since books were banned, apparently. But if I can't even find any proper articles about it, without, people asking about it due to this and series indeed, then I doubt it happened. But I don't know really, as I know very little about it. It is a bit weird to see them going on, such machinations all about book distribution and making. Um, yeah, it reminded me of a certain thing in modern life that where people keep saying no, the solution to its utter failure is more of it, and more of it results in more failure, and they keep repeating that they want more of it. That's somehow more of it is. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, yeah. So this though, I don't know. I mean, I guess even if it's all revisionist stuff, you know, it's sort of worth it for the costumes alone. Pretty nifty, I guess. They're slightly different, aren't they, from Japanese costumes? Although it's still similar, and they all have similar sort of customs, although slightly different. I think the hat is different from. I don't think any Japanese have such hats. They actually remind me of. Um, well, they're more like feathers, aren't they, than hats? But they're also somewhat reminiscent of, I think, with the war in medieval England. Possibly, I'm not sure though. Not sure. No, that was more of a round hat, I think. This is more. Hmm. No, yeah, I think it's more like what Ottoman officials wore. Not so much visible these days, though. But yeah. So that's the first part of it, and then there was the second part, which was more absurd. Like, yeah, more machinations. I still cannot quite understand what the document was supposed to be about. Is this supposed to be a banned book or something? Matter case or something? Apparently, detective novel, it seems. But in which case, why would they make so much fuss over it? Yeah, no, I think there's more to that than that. I think something that somehow props up the entire kingdom, from my understanding, although I'm not sure. That somehow he wanted burned and thought was burned at the beginning. I really don't know how much of this is true, but we'll see, I guess, later. Um, The most ridiculous thing that I saw, honestly, the most ridiculous thing ever is that thing at the end where somehow they back him up to abdicate. Like, seriously? Imagine if okay, it's like some sort of teen pop idol. Please! Imagine if they went along and just begged him not to resign. Please, keep singing. Like, but what the hell, you know? Yeah, yeah, that's very very strange stuff. Very strange. The only thing I can think of, honestly, is mental illness. Really, I don't know what else. Although I suppose it's one can see. It's uh, it's like a test of treason, apparently. It's very very horrid thing to do. If so, and that guy that Benjamin has, what the hell? Um, yeah. But seriously, it's even more absurd when his own son apparently was doing it. Like at that point when he just think, no, you know what? Yeah, do abdicate. I'd love to just. Then again, early on he said that he didn't really like his position so much. He preferred the other clothes, sort of clothes. I don't know. Honestly, I don't normally watch royal dramas at all. I'm not planning to watch any other sort of, anything else that it would be, closer to. But, I don't mind historical royal dramas, no, not current ones. I mean, honestly, man, current ones might as well be reality TV. Well, it comes to history, I guess, at least you learn something as opposed to whatever, generally, I really dislike anything to do with royalties, so you know, this is all I'm assuming I'm going to keep saying in the future as well. How I seem to think that it's all mental illness, really. Like I cannot say anything else but mental illness, really. Obviously, on the part of the so-called king, it's it's a test of whatever. But honestly, it's not like every citizen in the country is doing that. Begging him to not to abdicate. So honestly, what's the point of that? Is it really worth a position in a court household to be so idiotic, sycophantic, and whatnot? Most absurd thing, honestly. Royalists are. I believe it doesn't exist anymore, does it? The royal family in Korea. I don't quite know what happened. Assuming it's when it split, I think, but I'm not sure. No, no, no. I think it dissolved. I read after Joseon disappeared, which was I think nearly 1900s. But then it became an empire. So I think they had some sort of emperor for a bit, much shorter period. A Joseon dynasty was really long lasting, way longer than even the Edo period in Japan. So should really learn a bit about them, but yeah, it's a pity this is revisionist. I don't know how revisionist is. I suppose I'll just read a bit about this after finishing. But yeah, otherwise I just 500 years is quite a lot somehow. And now, of course, it's not even a single unified Korea anymore. So it's quite curious how these things happen. So I'm guessing the empire lasted until that split, and that's when all nonsense with regards to hierarchies ceased. Apart from, well, South Korea, I think, has an elected government now. And North Korea has whatever North Korea has. So yeah. So up to the fifth episode. This is more intriguing than I thought it might be. I don't know, I didn't really know what it might be, but so far, I swear, I haven't exactly watched many South Korean series or movies. Well, but you guess the movies I'm not sure I might have seen a few, I guess, mainly horror, I think, though, so not exactly in the same ballpark. But you guys are serious, though. I've watched a couple of others, I think, pretty much, that I've also commented on, and they were both melodramatic as well. Again, I chose this to have a bit of a flair, so I deliberately didn't choose like a rom com or something. But even when I chose a rom com, as in what was it called, that something boss, that I commented on as well, shy boss or something, yeah. That was a rom com, but it had dramatic elements as well. Dealt with suicide. I'm not sure did it very well, but it still did. And the other one I watched had a vegetable in the title and turned out to be one of the most melodramatic series I've ever watched. Like, I don't know how vegetables turn out to be so melodramatic, but well, This, on the other hand, yeah, no, the title sort of hints at a certain flair. Still don't know how much of it I'm thinking. Not much of it is true because I keep searching for people and they don't seem to exist. So far, only one guy exists. That guy who's supposed to be his teacher. But yeah, it is interesting. So the way it's happening, although the fact that people are dying constantly is a bit, suppose, repetitive, I might say. But it is interesting because at the end of the fifth episode now, you know when father and son have that talk at the end there, for a bit I thought that indeed he knew nothing, and it might still be possible, but I think it's more likely it's a ruse. But this is the thing, the fact that it's not certain as to what it is, for someone who, well, if it's historic, for someone who knows nothing, and if it's not, then people couldn't know technically, but yeah, so in that sense it's interesting. I'm thinking though his father is very much involved with it because of that whole secret document thing. That's the only problem I have though with this entire premise. I mean, they keep doing all this because of some secret document. I'm not even sure how it threatens him. I really don't get that thing at the beginning there where they told him that either sign or he loses his life. What kind of a choice is that? I mean, well, of course, I'm assuming it's not just though. I mean, if he signs, I'm assuming he's beholden to him. I'm assuming it's not exactly said, but I'm assuming it's implied. But otherwise, it's not much of a choice, is it? Yeah. So that's the thing, and it's quite something to that. Yeah, the whole thing revolves around this one document that he tries to get rid of in a fire, but somehow it's really bizarre. Just one document. I mean, one would think one document is easy to get rid of, but who knows? Yeah, there are some things that are a bit too coincidental. That happen sometimes. Yeah, which is a bit, but otherwise, so far I haven't encountered anything that is too unbelievable. I suppose it's all fairly interesting. Maybe the fact that that guy knows martial arts, like it's just like he's Jackie Chan or something. That's a bit unbelievable. I mean, mainly because not much was said about, well, his background or anything. I mean, it wasn't said that he took lots of classes when he was a child or something. Um, like at least they try to do in The Accountant, for example, the movie. They try to have a backstory where he does have lessons and such. This guy here is just like, yeah, I totally know all this already. I'm like Neo from the Matrix, I just know it instantaneously or something. But otherwise, it's still a riveting story. It's the whole thing is yeah, interesting, I suppose. It poses some interesting quandaries, and costumes are brilliant as well. Another thing that is a bit strange is how they expect uh, believability to just pass through, sort of. Like, for example, I think the worst so far was how they really thought. Like, I don't even know if they were onto it or something. I mean, obviously, some people were, but the thing where, he just switched clothes with the so called eunuch, and somehow, just because that happened, oh, no one will realize it. Like, I really don't know if the guards really just let him go despite knowing who he was, because was quite obvious, right? Like, you could argue, I guess, the dog makes it more difficult to identify who it is, especially if he was looking downwards, etc. But it's very remarkably unbelievable, really. I mean, just because he changed clothes, I guess from afar, yeah, but even then, it's dark, so it's not like you can really tell. Oh, this is a slightly green. This is slightly blue. Oh yeah, totally. This guy, not that other guy. I mean, so that stresses believability, really. Otherwise, though, it's kind of interesting. The thing is, though, the whole backstory of the king, being forced to somehow. This is a strange thing, I got to admit, right? Because I mean, I really don't know any other instances where someone was just forced to become a monarch. It makes no sense, right? Who on earth would, like, even if they wanted a puppet? I mean, surely they could just appoint someone that they that was part of their group, possibly. Instead, they appointed someone who was still part of the genealogical lineage. Like, it makes no sense. If you have the capability to appoint a monarch, why not appoint like your own group's leader? That would make most. That happens realistically, though. I don't know if this literally happened. Why on earth they would appoint this person, even though, just because, what, so what stresses credibility then is the fact that, the king seems to have so little power then. Of course, this was supposedly 30 years prior, but so little power. And then suddenly, he has so much power 30 years after, at the, 13th episode mark, that somehow he's able to imprison half of the two factions that vie for influence. Yeah, a bit stresses credibility there. Like, how would you go from, fearing for your own life, being able to, do all that? And if you're able to do all that, surely you can also. I mean, he seemed to express some sort of dislike for the Norons, I believe, who have at this point escaped any sort of justice, apart from, from that old guy just not retaining his position. But I mean, in comparison to the Saurons being imprisoned, a very strange word, by the way. Sauron keeps reminding me of Lord of the Rings, except there they don't spell it with an A and U. Yeah, they spell it with an O. Yeah. It's a strange tale, certainly, and so far it doesn't seem like it deviates too much from reality, but I still need to clarify. I mean, it's supposed to be revisionist, but I'm not entirely sure where it is. I guess it can be just a slight bit revisionist, I suppose. Not wholly. I don't know. We'll see. But as I said, there's some credibility issue. So far, I still don't know where the door is, by the way. I think it should be called secret document, not door. But who knows? Maybe a door just appears out of nowhere at the end of the series. Sort of like doors appear out of nowhere in Kingdom Hearts, I guess. I don't know. And yeah, I guess there we go. We got our secret door. Except, of course, throughout most of the series, we had a secret document, not a secret door. But never mind. Or maybe, this would be even cooler if they did this. Maybe the secret door is the metaphorical door that is the book where the document is stored. That would be an interesting way to put it, I guess, but I doubt that it would be so metaphorical. But who knows? I mean, they do seem to have quite a few idioms, you know. I like that one where, about not covering the sky with your hand. Yeah. Um, there seems to be two versions of subtitles, by the way, and they're very similar, except one seems to have slightly better grammar, but not the other one isn't really bad or anything. The problem is that the other one doesn't have some translations for some of those things that go by, like when they go to another room, like a library, and it says library in Korean, Hangul or something, and yeah, it's but it does have for most of them, just not for some. I don't know why, but yeah. But yeah, I think we can say that after the 13th episode, yeah, the king is truly an unrepentant bastard. Like before then, we shifted here and there. He wasn't just absolutely plainly. You could see sort of how there might be some conditions when you're forced to do something, but I mean he barely, like I keep thinking maybe the neurons are doing urging him to do this, and but not really, like he does everything without even any sort of uh, any inhibition. Really clearly he is right. The acting obviously is very convincing. It's almost despicable to see all that. But yeah, after the 13th episode, I think we can safely say that if it doesn't go down at the end of the series, that it won't be a fulfilling series, right? Because he's just too much of a bastard, right? Like he seriously almost fooled me when they were there at the Symmetry Mount thing. Very strange symmetry. I don't know if they still have that in Korea. You sort of have a small hill. Yeah, he almost convinced me. Yeah, he really can act. Yeah, it's the capability of acting, I guess. But yeah, everything that happens since he is an unrepentant bastard. Although if his son thinks that just producing the original document will really, like, I don't know. I guess is the lack of an original document the reason why people will say nothing? Why the masses won't just suddenly revolt? Like honestly, I'm just thinking of this situation where like in a certain country, they say, "Oh yeah, the monarchy is totally good for tourism. Oh, who cares if it's killing lots of people and burning them to death? Yeah, as long as tourists come here, why not?" Of course, I'm not sure if this applies to Korea specifically, considering it was once known as the Hermit Nation. It literally didn't want any tourists, but that's the sort of absolutely sick justifications that people have for such an absurd institution, right? I'm just saying. Yeah, and honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if this happens. Like, I mean, it doesn't literally happen when it comes to that, but even having this whole incredibly idiotic, overblown bureaucracy that sustains this whole institution just for the sake of tourism is utterly absurd. Even if it wasn't like actively killing people, it's just absurd on its own account, right? It's not exactly equivalent to having a garden and maintaining a garden so people could just go there and enjoy it. I'm pretty sure that costs much less. I'm just saying, but just based on economics, regardless of any sort of social fairness or not, But yeah, this is quite like if they don't get rid of the monarchy after this, I don't think they do. I think I'm still not entirely sure what caused the monarchy to totally fall in Korea. But if this really happened, then this is what then you can sort of see. I mean, I guess if you have a crown prince who really is like that, I almost think it's sort of propaganda that the series is doing here because I mean, he cannot be that somehow that much of a sort of I don't know you know he is too positive in a sense to even be his son. Um, I almost expected him to just really cooperate with everything he's doing because he really did at one point sort of say well yeah I mean and it's so absurd after that whole thing but about tax like it's such a small thing in comparison to and that was just from one episode to the next as far as I know unless it was the beginning of this one episode because a lot of things happen in one episode how in an hour a lot of things can happen and it's a bit absurd, going from I shall tax you or I shall not tax you to people begging him not to be taxed, a roll or bun or whatever it was, to killing people by stabbing them with hot pokers. Wow, that's quite a yeah. It escalated quickly there. And yeah, um, yeah. Seriously, I mean, like, no matter what happens now, he is irredeemable. I'm just saying, and if they try to redeem him, the series would have failed. There's no redemption for such a bastard. I'm just saying, I don't know. So, yeah, episode 15 now. So, yeah, some changes there were. Clearly, they wanted something to change, an arc, etc. But it's not very convincing. You see, this is the problem. Um, so you see, it's first of all the problem with Jidam, right? The so-called Jidam. Yeah. I did read before that they replaced her with another actress, and it's not convincing at all. I mean, I don't know if they honestly try to make her look similar, but she doesn't quite really. So it kind of takes away from it, It's the problem. It's when they when they introduced her first, there was that flashback, but it makes no sense. It's like having a flashback for another person, and so yeah. And I can see that they're all trying to do politics, as they say, but it's really I don't know what it is. Like it's like the prince just suddenly forgot that Tech murdered his own friend. Like it's just yeah. But I mean I'd hope that it won't end like this at any rate because it won't be fulfilling. So his supposed teacher is his own friend's murderer, and he's really treating his father with kids' gloves. I mean, when he like literally he's pretty much acting like a kid, really, and honestly, when he did that idiotic stunt, uh, fasting, uh, I don't know why he didn't just tell him, "Wow, just go ahead, couldn't care less." Like he began, he kind of had that attitude beginning, but then he just didn't. After he did all that, with regards to all the slashing and the bloodthirsty nonsense, that's the only thing really that they should have done. But somehow now it's just back to politics. Like seriously, how can that happen? And this new Jadam now, I'm getting vibes from her that she's willing to sacrifice herself to exact revenge. Which yeah. It's quite weird what they did with the facial hair, by the way. Yeah. In fact, it was just the episode prior to this that I realized that the prince was pretty much the only one with no facial hair until, of course, this episode. But suddenly he grows up, and they do that, of course, symbolically, along with, his evolution in thought by somehow adopting his friend's murderer as a teacher. Yeah. So this is the problem, you know. By the way, as a bit of trivia, there is at one point there is Nyang was mentioned. Now Nyang was a currency, is a currency clearly, as mentioned, but the problem is that it doesn't seem like it was used at that time. Around 1750. Apparently, it was used centuries later, about 150 years later. So I don't know. I think it was, either an oversight by the makers of the series or the translators, whoever really. But yeah, I don't think it was only used for 10 years. In fact, I'm not sure why they picked it out of all the other currencies that were used. But yeah.
And I read a bit about actual history now, mostly past history. Although, I actually haven't totally read on how. No, what I did read about recent history is how the monarchy is supposed to have transformed into an empire. I just haven't read yet how the so-called empire dissolved. Right, for some, I think it might have something to do with Japan's conquering of the region, and I'm thinking maybe it just was never established again after it was dissolved by the occupiers, but I'm not sure. So I need to verify that. But yeah, I read a bit about the. By the way, also what I also learned actually recently, just before, right, because it pertains to the future, I guess, is that currently the monarchy seems to be in a bit of a state. You know how there's pretenders everywhere, and to be fair, they do find it very difficult. Usually, it's not like people in charge who make arbitrary decisions aren't already in a state where they make idiotic actions and such, act idiotically, of course, having a much more effect. But this happens outside as well, even when they don't have capability to affect the entire country. So currently, apparently, right, this pretender is really old, about 80 now, and I just completely by accident just found out that um, I don't know. I've no idea what on earth happened exactly. That just. But yeah, apparently he just decided to just randomly decide that some random guy from the U.S. is the crown prince, and it was very weird when I found this out. Right, I think if you whoever researches, you could find out, and it's very strange. It's nothing at all like the crumb. I mean, I think this was called some sort of sad or something. The one that's depicted in this series. No, I don't. I'm getting the vibe that he is sort of too good to be true. Sort of like they did with Ieyasu Tokugawa in Sengoku Basara. I'm just saying, right? He's all good and such, which really makes no sense. But with regards to this Crown Prince here now, I still need to research. So because I prefer to really only learn about because otherwise there's spoilers and to be fair, I think I already spoiled a bit myself because I think I know how this specific monarch ends. I don't think it's a spoiler in the sense of the ultimate spoiler, but yeah. Anyway, so I'm just saying, right? Yeah, I just learned about this modern, how it ended up, what it ended up like, and apparently he made some random weirdo the crown princess, and he happens to be the one who just took over an active IRC network for the only reason that he has money. Apparently, that's pretty much it. Isn't that great? Oh, what supposed pretense does to your head, eh? Yeah. Anyway. So there's just a bit of modern sort of trivia that really, I don't know, that has no impact whatsoever. But I'm just saying, like, I'm just like, it's still sort of interesting to connect bits and pieces here and there. I mean, this guy isn't even there's no lineage apparently that anyone can trace, so it's not like it really makes any sense whatsoever. It's just some 80-year-old actual pretender. I mean, still pretenders, but they're all named pretenders. But I think there is. I think he is. Anyway, I'm just saying. I really don't care about this stuff. Honestly, it's not like I'm just saying though that it's a really really strange state currently. Yeah. Anyway, and I'm just saying. You know, what's interesting though is what happened before in particular, and apparently what happened before is, like they say in the series, some think that the previous monarch was poisoned, but I think the consensus is that he wasn't, because just like they say in the series. I don't think they mentioned whatever was mentioned in the series. That was it ginseng? I forgot. They mentioned something strange that guy said that he wouldn't eat just because he fed the former monarch these things. But I read that in real life they think that it might have been prawns or something that rotted away after being delivered 30 miles or something without ice. So yeah, guess maybe that's it. This was before the days of fridges, of course, wasn't it? So but that wow, yeah. Anyway, so I'm just saying, yeah. So I'm guessing this is where exactly it. This might be a bit revisionist, not so much. I mean, it honestly, revisionism is a bit of a catch-all term, really. I always assume that it's just total fiction, but it's not, is it? In fact, if it was total fiction, it would just say it's historical fiction or such. But um, I think it is mostly realistic. I mean, everything that I've read so far, you know. I did read a bit about Park Monsu though, and I don't think he did. I mean, there is really very little on it, honestly. I tried to translate the Korean article, and it didn't translate well at all whatsoever. I have no idea what the hell is wrong with Google Translate for Korean, but it came up with really, really strange phrases. Like, seriously strange. I don't know if they're idioms or it just doesn't work as a translating tool, you know. And yeah, anyway, so I'm just saying, yeah, but this is a short article for Park Monsu, and it doesn't mention death at all. In fact, how he died. But if he did die, as depicted in the series, it would have said surely, and it's so strange. I mean, then again, I mean, he was fairly he's depicted as fairly stoic. So I suppose simply starving yourself to death, I suppose, is sort of stoic. I don't know. It's a bit foolish, but anyway, yeah. So yeah, I'm just saying, the depiction of the politics in the series is actually strange because it is all honestly it's like both boring and interesting at the same time. It's a bit strange. There's a lot of, yeah. What's boring is the bureaucracy. They keep on going on about bureaucracy and how they're the Ministry of Rights, etc. Yeah, that's that's my numbing, you know. But then you get all these twists and turns with the political intrigue, and that's quite interesting actually. Like I mean, it's not the most incredible thing ever, but like how the ginseng rotted, but somehow for some reason it just rots after a day, even though presumably it doesn't normally. I don't really have much experience with ginseng or anything though, so I have no idea really what the normal is like. But it's sort of interesting how they made it so it rots after a day, and yeah, I mean, and him trying to get the favor of neurons, sort of interesting, but I still have doubts over that honestly because it's like he forgot that he's just he's just speaking with the person who killed his own very friend, that he very much um, felt sorry about. Um, I mean, it still means it's a passionate tale. I mean, it still is a passionate tale, right? But I'm just saying, and it's well acted. That's for sure, right? So, for example, I mean, you could see how even though he's doing all this, he's smiling at Kim Tech and such. He just smiles around all the normals and such. But as soon as he turns his back, like they do really, but theirs is slightly more obvious. They're just smiling and suddenly not smiling. But with some other people, well, I mean, I guess the police officer turned Norman there also does it sometimes. I'm not sure if that's because he's inexperienced or something. Everyone else is experienced. Well, there's another one who gets really hot headed as well. So I guess it's not just experience maybe. Uh, but yeah, I noticed so far that the police officer turned Norman and the crown prince himself had these twitches, these facial twitches, and that sort of indicates what exactly they feel. And that's sort of interesting acting. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it must be some sort of specified direction, right? Like they just tell them, or they possibly feel like they need to do it themselves. To twitch, but I don't even know how they do it, like voluntarily, because usually it's like this thing. Like even the king does himself when he gets all angry, but that's slightly more doable, I suppose. It's like the anger building up in you, actually. The way he does it, it's always the same as well. But then don't these others, these couple of others, that I noticed there, and are so subtle. I also don't know how they do them. It's like you barely see it. In fact, I had to rewind it to really verify it. So it's kind of interesting how it happens. Yeah. I guess that's an indication of good acting, I suppose. Yeah. By the way, I just, I never intend ever to, yeah, never to read comments online. Yeah, comments are like a sewer, in my opinion. But it's yeah, I happen to read some just randomly because of non-fortune, shall we say. I was unfortunate. Anyway, and as usual, people are so infantile and more importantly, so one-dimensional, right? Like I also don't know how people watch stuff and think that somehow, oh, this guy's good, this guy's bad, good, bad, good. That's what most people, it seems. I don't know, but if it's most, but that's what a lot of people seem to do. Good, bad, good. I mean, how moronic is this view, right? Just I cannot believe it, right? So the comment I read happened to be about the so-called crown princess. This was a bit at the beginning, so I guess she didn't just evolve to be the multifaceted person that she is now. But how infantile can you be to think that, oh wow, wow, she's evil, or whatever adjective they happen to use. I don't know now. I forgot. But seriously, you know what I mean? Like, isn't it obvious that uh, you can have dramas, I guess, where you get just a stereotypical plain villain. You know, I guess the Street Fighter villain is like that. But then I don't know. There's some other quality to it, to the whole thing, that makes it sort of just still interesting. Not so much the multidimensional characters, more I guess the bizarre antics in Street Fighter's case. Yeah. So when you have a drama like this, it's almost always you get multifaceted characters. Even in as I commented on the other that other Korean drama, Bachelor, Vegetable, whatever, Bachelor, yeah. There was someone there, yeah, who also was, very vengeful and such, much more so than much more direct, but there's still multifaceted. They still have a history. They still have a whole world, just like I mean, most good dramas have this, but this is the point. I don't know how people honestly watch stuff and still keep thinking that somehow it will be written as some sort of simplistic narrative. Because I think most I don't know, or maybe they watch too much Hollywood, because Hollywood does tend to be a bit simplistic. But even Hollywood, honestly, I mean, just um, I don't know. Like, I don't know. Didn't they make like a Joker movie? So you get like a profile behind a villain. I don't really know much about Batman, so I cannot quite say if the Joker was ever a stereotypical villain. But there was a whole movie, and clearly they're trying to do something other than one dimensionality. So I don't get it. How people keep thinking that somehow, oh wow, yeah, this person is vengeful. They must be bad. Therefore, I must hate them or something. Like, how simplistic is that? I just cannot believe it. And somehow, yeah, it's reflecting the wrong simplicity, obviously. What else? Anyway, yeah. So first, interesting. Like even the monarch himself is multifaceted. Like at first I did think that he might have been genuine, and he seems genuine. Like when that he tried to institute the tax, yeah, seemed genuine. Yeah, it's kind of funny how I was thinking earlier that there are governments, many governments actually, which do the opposite. They totally do the opposite. So here we had an actual monarch who could do, presumably at that time they were absolute monarchs, and he chooses to try at least to tax everyone equally, from a state where everyone isn't taxed equally. And of course the aristocrats rebel. But there are democracies currently, so elected representatives, who do the opposite, who very much favor increasing inequality, and you know they're not they're supposed not to be absolute. I mean, they still act like as if they are absolute monarchs, and honestly, who I mean, if they can keep getting voted in again and again, then I guess, yeah, functionally they are. The only thing that indicates that they shouldn't do something is if they're not voted in. Even then, of course. But yeah, anyway, just saying. I don't know. I didn't think. I mean, this is. I don't think after finishing this, I'm on the 15th or 16th episode or so. Um, yeah. After finishing this, I don't think I'm going to go to another historical fiction series or movie yet. It's kind of enough for now. But more importantly, I don't think I'll go again for anything to do with monarchies immediately. Not because I'm not enjoying it. Interesting. It's interesting intrigue. It's a thriller essentially sometimes, and mostly a drama. But I don't know. It's just a bit too much sometimes. Like it can be thrilling, but all the kneeling and blah blah blah. All the like even if they don't literally kneel with the they just bow. And it's not like I'm not used to it. Even if you watch anime, in Japan they do it a lot as well. So, but it's gets really tiring. And then there's the absurd idea of eunuchs going all around. And honestly, I don't know how they did it, but they got that voice as well. Yeah. Anyway, well, I doubt they're character actors. I doubt it. But anyway, yeah, I'm just saying. I'm just saying. So, yeah, it's sort of not because I don't I'm interested in the background intrigue, but the bureaucracy specifically, yeah, where they're talked about or shown on screen is tiring. And this is why I would normally watch the sort of stuff. Like I dislike the real life institution, but I think watching anything on screen is boring. The only reason I'm watching this is because I really know nothing about the. I knew nothing at least, about the Joseon dynasty. Yeah. Um, yeah. 2019, I spent some months learning about the Tokugawa shogunate. So I'm thinking, yeah, why not learn about the neighboring country? That's pretty much how I ended up watching this, really. And it's a good thing though that being a revisionist, supposedly it hasn't really strayed too far though. The point is, I don't think it has. So that's good. Obviously, there are some things, like it makes it seem like it is certain that you know he was murdered, but he wasn't, and such. Yeah, yes. But anyway, I'll confirm later on though if indeed it's accurate about the two central characters as well. So far, though, the character that I didn't really like so much, as with regards to how she evolved, is Jidam. As I said earlier, I don't think they should have changed the actress. Makes no sense. Just no sense. I mean, she doesn't even. Yeah, not only does she not look like her, she doesn't act like her. She just doesn't walk like her. I understand she's trying to, not be as happy as before. That's understandable. So she changed her entire demeanor, but the fact that she's a different actress makes it obvious that she's just a different person. She doesn't look like her at all. I honestly don't know if they thought, yes, she is a carbon copy. I mean, she's not. Uh, uh, yeah. Maybe yeah, just makes a difference. I guess just because the other one smiled so much as well. This is quite a contrast. Is all I'm saying. Alternatively, I don't suppose maybe they really thought if we change the actress, it could really indicate how much she really changed psychologically. But it doesn't quite work like that, does it? I mean, nobody changes physically just because they change psychologically. So I think it's a bad decision that they made there. One of the weakest points now. But honestly, I think she changes. I mean, the way she acts, like towards other characters, like um, actually, now that I think of it, I'm not sure. But because earlier I saw her bowing as well to the crown prince, and I thought the other one never did this. I kind of doubt that. I forgot exactly if she did. She might have done, but somehow didn't feel like she really did. I don't know. It's the way she interacted with him, but sort of understandable within the context as well. So yeah, um, but she is kind of the weak point. Also, I don't quite get why that the leader of that mercenary fighting group is targeting the prince. I don't quite get it. I don't. Yeah. Unless no, I mean he knows he's a prince. He obviously doesn't know that the so-called noble stranger is the prince. But that ask about Catholicism now in this latest episode I watched. I read, by the way, another bit of trivia that one of the princes, I think, of one of the sons of the previous king, who was, the one who's rumored to be murdered in the series, in real life, but is likely not have to have been. He actually, though, apparently murdered his own son just because he wanted to influence Korea from a Western perspective, and and by Western here I think it means mostly China. I think actually is Korea even. Anyway, yeah, but I think Catholicism was involved as well, which is why I came to this. And he just killed him with an ink slab or something. Like, what the hell? He was seriously crazy. Yeah, either way, he is not well regarded. I don't know. I don't quite know how well regarded his successor was, but yeah. Somehow, though, he killed his son just because of that. So apparently, it's a son who went to China as a tribute, because apparently the Ying dynasty, which is now a major part of the latter episodes here, it did once conquer Korea, and they had to pay tribute as a vassal state, presumably. I haven't quite read how they got out of that. Presumably they're out of that now. At around 1750, I think. I always think of the date of 1750. I think it's more like 1760 now, though. Or 60, was it 68 or something? 3 years passed after. Yeah. Anyway. So some tribe also was mentioned with regards to who who the Ying dynasty wanted to defeat. As to who they wanted the soldiers for. As an alternative or choice to give them. Like, I get the impression that Korea at that point wasn't a vassal state, but they still treated them like one, which is obviously a bad state to be in. And I read about the people that they wanted to conquer at that point, and it's such an unfortunate history, right? Apparently, I think this was either just before or after. I think maybe likely after, yeah, after this point when they did conquer, and just because their leader didn't agree to becoming a vassal state, they ordered the genocide. It's and somehow they only directly killed. Was it 10 or 20%? Maybe 25%. The majority, though, about 40% was by a disease, which I kind of forgot right now. I don't think it was typhoid. It was it. Yeah, I forgot. Anyway, so yeah, very unfortunate state. And what links this to the present is that this was the state where before this was practically Xinjiang, that is currently called Xinjiang, and this was though directly before the current situation. So China apparently is doing the exact same thing, in possibly in a more slow fashion. I don't know, but the same thing. And that's the strange thing as well. Apparently, the Ying dynasty actually were mostly happy with um, the people who repopulated the areas, but obviously the current government isn't. So, very strange state of affairs. Even stranger, of course, that this is a series that's making me read about all this. That's the point of historic series, really. Just if it doesn't happen, then there's no point in watching, is there? So yeah, I guess I did research about the Tokugawas as well when I watched stuff related to it, so might as well do this. Yeah. Um, I actually still cannot believe that it was Sengoku Basara that made me research the Tokugawa era, because of course Sengoku Basara was very childish, essentially. But I think that the entertaining might be also the adjective that can be used, and it was entertaining sufficiently that it made me go a bit further in reading about it. I actually watched a few live action movies as well, like about Sekigahara and such. So, as far as that goes, contrast and compare. I still don't like the fact that they didn't have Musashi in Sengoku Basara's Sekigahara, because he actually was in real life. Somehow he wasn't. Yeah. I mean, he was in earlier episodes, but not in Sekigahara. Yeah. Other than that, though, I really know very little else in comparison with regards to Korea until this moment. I'm learning a bit now. Now, practically, I know even less about China. I mean, I know that a little bit. They just said that, but I hear about the three kingdoms all the time. I don't really know too much about them at all, though. At all. I mean, besides the basic, kingdoms that are unified, etc., which always happens, of course. Same with Korea. I think it was three kingdoms as well. Silla, I think. There was Goryeo as well, which Korea came from, and I forgot the other one. Yeah, I think it was Silla. It's a very strange name because it doesn't sound very Korean, does it? Silla just sounds like Zilla, Mozilla. Just I get images of dinosaurs. Yeah. Anyway, so uh, yeah. So it's other than that, I mean, I did know a bit about what happened in World War II and such. I don't really much need to watch much about that specifically because it would be a very depressing watch, shall we say? Yeah. Of course, and Japan, of course, is still unrepentant to this day. To this day, unrepentant. It's incredible what neighbors can do to each other. Incredible. Yeah, yeah. So I don't know, just one of those things. But this is why, at any rate, the point is, this is why I need to stop doing historic stuff. This is the thing. So, I mean, like when I watch rom-coms, my mind is just dissolved into just nothing because they're so simplistic nonsense. Such uh, this is the opposite in a way. It's not too complex. It's just depressing. Whereas rom-coms are just fluff, pretty much. But it's not really. It doesn't make you feel happy either. So it's not exactly the opposite here. Well, then again, this is not entirely depressing either, but mostly depressing. Anyway, yes. So, obviously, I will still finish it, but it's actually I'm actually doing much more progress than I'm doing with some others. Like I actually still haven't finished this other Chinese series that I began literally a year ago. Yeah, I haven't. I haven't. Yeah, the one that has that repeated word in the title. Go whatever. Yeah, squid. That's the word. Squid. Yeah, no idea why. Anyway, yeah. So I still haven't. I don't know what. It is in a way fluffy rom-com, but in a way it has something more at least. I was kind of interesting. Yeah, networking competitions, but I don't know, just it also tries to combine some stuff. Anyway, that's for its own thing. Anyway, yeah. But otherwise, yeah, it's this has suddenly grabbed my attention. That's for sure. More so than that did. I also never actually finished the Inuyasha live action adaptation for some reason. I should continue at some point. This definitely got my attention. I mean, it helps that it only has 24 episodes, of course, but only that still means 24 whole hours. But yeah, the Inuyasha live action had 50, so I guess just double the amount makes a difference. It also had horror subtitles, so that makes a huge difference as well. So, with regards to everything that happens after, I mean, I really needed to, I guess, um, comment about a little bit with regards to the examination arc, I guess you could say. It was um, it's quite something. It's actually the one topic within the entire series that really broke through me, sort of thing. When especially when well, both of them, right? They were both the shopkeeper of the books, that the prince went to buy from every so often, and the civil servant's brother, who they focused on, and they both had these pretty fulfilling sort of outcomes. Yeah, and of course, all that happened at the end, which is amazing. Obviously, centuries later, I don't know if truly it happened all as it depicted, but I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, I guess it's one of those things. Um, I won't be surprised. Now, I'm not entirely sure. So, I mean, it's supposed to be revisionist, so there might be slight differences from actual history, which I still need to find out. I still haven't found out, so don't ruin everything yet. Although I still did spoil some things for myself accidentally. I don't know. Just uh, 24 hours is a long time, I guess. Before, I mean, you know, I just I do Google names here and there to see if they're real people, and the king of spoilers, of course, Google, is always there, ready to charge. Of course, charge true. Like a battalion of berserkers. It's annoying those things, those so-called questions. I mean, they're useful if if it's about chemistry or something, or even any other subject. But I don't know why they have them for fictional or not. I guess just series in general or movies, etc. Yeah, it's idiotic. Really, what's the point of having them? It's not like people. Uh, whatever. It's really annoying though. What is useful in another context becomes just awful when you spoil. I mean, this is history, I guess. So not so much. Guess most. I don't know about most, but many Koreans would presumably already know basically what happened. Maybe not the nooks and crannies as usual, like with everything. But yeah, it was so awful seeing that bit with the exams, and everything after, and oh, how the so-called noble assholes, more like, looked at them straight after. That was quite some look, acting without actually saying anything. Yeah, I, and that is so typical, really. I mean, I can't believe though that they said that half were commoners that passed. I think it was half, and only two from the Neuron side, and so that means no wait, if it's two, that wouldn't be half, would it? Was there like someone else then? Anyway, but yeah, They are truly pathetic, aren't they? Um, I don't know honestly why, if indeed that guy that was supposed to be the Minister of Rights, if indeed he was converted. I mean, I thought that he only really did that in order to avoid the scrutiny of having people know that he was about to cheat. Which, by the way, I'm surprised they didn't go with. I'm assuming the Prince's watchful eye prevented that, but I thought they were just going to just mark all the ones that were Normans because of the special paper. So they could sort of indicate who they are based on the paper. When I first heard it, I thought, yeah, don't they like put their names on top usually or something? That's what normally happens these days, which makes it so much, I guess, easier if the teachers do indeed want to corrupt the process these days. Whenever you put a name on top, then they could easily do it then. Either by having known a person, or basing it off the name itself or something. If you want like a possible probable class or anything else. So yeah. Anyway, I'm just saying. It's just so pathetic, honestly. So just because they couldn't pass the test themselves, mm, which of course has many resonances in the outside world and contemporary times as well. Centuries make no difference. Uh, Not exactly the same, of course. There's always a few differences, but because of course these days supposedly everyone can take exams. At least nominally, there isn't such restrictions, but of course, uh, they always did, of course, integrate such restrictions, artificially, but still very much functional. Restrictions like, well, not so much restrictions, yeah, more like, like having boosts for people who the private tuition, etc. Of course, and what else? Well, generally, especially in some countries, universities costing so much. People are pathetic, really. What can I say? Yeah, there isn't a nominal, uh, dis- discrete restriction based on class, but it is all but name, right? By all means, if somebody, I guess, wins the lottery, then great. They can. There's only a slight difference, I guess, within the definition of class, really, because back then I suppose they based it more on just just where you were born, just that, and there's no going elsewhere. There's no mobility whatsoever. So I'm assuming effectively they didn't value money as much. These days, of course, Mammon is utterly worshipped. They love Mammon. Love. Yeah, yeah, totally. And of course, that is effectively, it's not a strict, this absolute restriction, but it effectively is, really. People can try all they want, but even the fact that exams themselves cost, so it's utterly pathetic, really. If if exams cost, then the only thing you're testing is the capability to pay for such a thing. And that's, of course, that's supposed to be a nominal cost. It's not like they cost thousands, I guess, to have an exam. But of course, there's everything behind that as well. Then, so I guess theoretically, people can pass an exam using books from a library. But yeah, well, even the fact that They usually have set curriculum that they follow, and it's often differs, and often so I mean, yeah, I guess if somebody can memorize an entire, well, possibly multiple entire books, and yeah, they can possibly pass. But so besides memorization, it'd be quite difficult, I guess, if you're not specifically, because schools these days specifically prepare pupils. But yeah, anyway, with regards to Secret Door specifically, which by the way, I still have no idea what this door is. I mean, throughout the entire, many episodes concerning the document, I was thinking this should be called Secret Document. That would be much more apt. But then, of course, that, arc finished, and I still have no idea where, if any. I mean, I'm on the 21st episode now, so far there was no secret door. So unless in the last few episodes they come out like, oh, here's the door. What's inside? Who knows? Oh look, it's Park Monceau revived, or something. It's very very strange the way he went. By the way, as usually. But yeah, anyway, well, it's also strange that the former chief state councilor went as well. I mean, how he went, that's sort of strange as well. But just yeah. So overall, I think if indeed this so-called prince existed for real, I believe he was called Sado, even though the name isn't quite mentioned at all. So anyway, the point is, if he indeed existed and he's not at all whitewashed, yeah, like somehow it seems like he might have been. I mean, as I said before, it reminds me very much of Tokugawa Ieyasu in Sengoku Basra, but I mean that's just some some people might say a silly cartoon, because I mean honestly this doesn't exactly go to great great depths, or I mean this does, Secret Door is much more deep than Sengoku Basra could ever be. I mean Sengoku Basra is all about stylization, really. That's pretty much it. And battles, of course. There's actually very few battles here, which is in my opinion a benefit. Honestly, I don't really care much, because there were assassinations at the beginning, but they sort of tapered off. There was never that much gory, but there was a bit. But if this so-called Sado, really existed, then it's such a pity, honestly. So yeah, I just realized that this was actually about 50 years before the French Revolution. So there's like a sort of a template that was soon to follow uh, within the world at large history. Not so much within the geographical area, regional, but I mean, of course, the Chinese Revolution itself won't happen until a century later. So yeah. Uh, I still haven't confirmed how the Korean monarchy was dissolved, but I don't. From the little that I've touched on when I read, I think it might have something to do with the Japanese occupation, possibly. I'm not sure if they dissolved it and then no one bothered to revive it again. But let's hope it stays that way, because the so-called Lee that was supposed to be, I cannot believe the difference, right? It's like what the hell? Here I'm watching this version of this so-called Sado, and I just suddenly also learned that the current crown prince, supposed current, I mean he was really officially, I mean I don't know, it's probably because the 80-year-old pretender to the throne. Of course, they're called pretenders now because the monarch is no longer there. Yeah, probably because of her old age. He's just, I don't know. Can they even do that? Because it doesn't seem like, I don't know, maybe it says there's no confirmed connection really, so no idea. Just seems to be a royal asshole pretty much, and I'm sure if there was a monarchy tomorrow, he would be exactly like Youngyo. Actually, most likely worse. Yeah, worse. Because I don't know if I've pronounced Youngyo right. By the way, it looks like Youngyo, but I've no idea. his father at any rate, Sado's father. You know, he actually does have some subtlety to him. I mean, he tries a bit. I mean, I don't know if it's just the acting and if it's revisionist, it's a bit, but I actually found it funny how he tried to cry at some point, like cry. Obviously, Coco could cry or cry. You know, he tried. I mean, you know, you cannot accuse him of being emotionless. That's for sure. In comparison, actually, Sada himself isn't quite that much, but obviously, you know, still. I don't get it though. I don't get how, you know, just like he asked him himself at one point. I don't get why he can say, oh, for, you know, for people to live, it's fine if we have equality. It's fine if we tax them equally, which of course even some current, recent, yeah, parties within some countries uh, don't even care about. So that's quite something, right? I mean, we're talking about supposedly democratic parties here being, you know, caring less about equality than a goddamn monarch. So it's quite a bad state the world is in at any one time. I'm just saying. Um, yeah, I mean, you know, just because it's 2021 doesn't mean anything whatsoever. There's still assholes out there, and these days, to make matters worse, because you know you could at least, you know, when it's a monarchy, you know, you can at least say, well, I haven't voted for that. But these days, people are like, yeah, I voted for that. Please steal more of their money, their money. Oh no, it's totally their money. It's not mine. Oh no, 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 not mine. Oh wait, is it? Yeah, it's oh the tax is coming. Well, of course this doesn't apply. I mean, you know, to people with offshore tax haven savings. Yeah, that because it doesn't apply. Why would it ever apply? Or you know, non denominational. Do you know? Whatever. Oh no, non domiciled, non domiciled people. Yeah. So I'm just saying. I mean, very much the same and worse situation the world is in currently, and that's just about tax, not anything else. But this is what I'm saying. I don't understand why he can reason like that about tax, which you know at that point apparently included hemp rolls, which is a very strange thing to tax people. But I guess you know if indeed hemp rolls were the sort of you know, currency du jour, then I guess yeah, by all means. Um, but yeah, I don't understand it. I don't understand how he could say, "Oh no, yeah, for tax reasons, totally fine." When it comes to social classes, so no, for the monarchy could fall, and he thinks he can seriously think that you know. Just, the one funny thing is that he still tries to keep protecting his son, despite knowing that you know his son is the total opposite of him ideologically, and such a pitiful thing. You know how it ended, uh, which I'm sure I'll see the details of soon. Yeah, it's always a pity these things sort of you know happen and such. I mean, in a way, even with uh, Marie Antoinette, and, just before the French Revolution. I mean, you know, there were so many other monarchs that were so corrupt. I mean, obviously, it's always that last little thing that you know makes the mountain fall apart. But people reacted to what wasn't really an issue. I mean, they should have at least reacted to what was an issue, which I'm sure there were many issues. But you know that necklace thing, yeah, it wasn't really an issue, was it? It was well, what was it's something about being sold. I haven't watched Rose of Versailles for many years now, unfortunately. So
Yeah, I did. That was sort of the original historical anime that I watched that made me read a bit, but I never quite commented on it at that point, so I don't know. So yeah, but yeah, it wasn't an issue as far as I know. So it wasn't something like she ordered specifically. Oh no, she might have ordered it, I think, but then refused and such. Then there were some forgeries with regards to hand signature. So it wasn't a straightforward corruption issue at any rate. And all I'm saying is that even in these supposedly modern times, there's far, far, far more corruption than that. Far more. And people are like, yeah, I'll vote for you again. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe people centuries ago were more allergic to corruption. I don't know. These days, they seem to love it. Something I don't understand. It's just yeah, it's very frustrating. Just plain corruption. Like they don't even try to justify it. Some people even admit it's corruption and it's totally fine. As long as it's their party, of course. Not no, the other side. No, no, it's a cardinal sin if it's the other party. So this is the problem. It's not like there weren't parties and literally, yeah. Even if you got an unelected monarch, you still got sides. Just like in Joseon times, you had Northern and Southern factions. But just it's incredible how sides these days. Yeah, they're just I don't know, just mindless. They, they seem they probably were mindless always, honestly. Just one would hope that somehow both sides can recognize corruption and both sides wouldn't like it, but nope, nope. No, I don't know if it's just these days or some instances where it happens, or some people, maybe like 10% generally usually like corruption, and sometimes in some ages it goes up to 20% or something. So they have sort of, I don't know, like more of a well, I don't know, man. I don't know. It's bizarre. What can I say? Yeah, it's bizarre for people. Like, it's not even talking about their own, of course, corruption. It's not like they're personally, monetarily benefiting from it, but they think just because people who are ideologically similar are benefiting from corruption, then they're benefiting as well. It makes no sense, honestly. But you probably think that ideologies and institutions being funded by corruption, and they love that. I'm not entirely sure how an extra yacht funds an ideology, but anyway, yeah. And yeah, I finished this series finally. What do you know? Just when you think that you were spoiled, by knowing his fate before, thanks to Google the spoiler, it's always the same thing with that search engine. Um, but no, what I wasn't spoiled on is because obviously I didn't go into detail before actually finishing it. Yeah, well, the difference is like I don't know why I thought that maybe it wasn't really very revisionist. No, apparently it was entirely revisionist. Apparently, just based on some conspiracy theory that they somehow seem to have made sense of. I cannot believe like so much happened, so much detail. Is it all just imagined then? There are apparently a couple of pages someone wrote really lengthy parts. Apparently parts, yeah, I haven't read yet, so I'll read those. But what I have read though is you know yeah, the Wikipedia pages for at least the king, and apparently he had lots of children. I don't know why they didn't say that. Yeah, I don't know why they always do that. It's really annoying. It's like with Sengoku Basara, although it's slightly different. Um, no, with that specifically, what they excluded was Hideyoshi's son, and it was a stupid decision in my opinion because he's very central to the story of Japan in that instance. Here, though, they excluded a lot, like for example, there was he apparently had a sister because apparently besides Sado and apparently a older brother that died that was briefly mentioned at the end, so you can sort of understand why he wasn't shown. Because I suppose when the series began, he had already died. Just mentioned then, and you know that thing was a weird thing that they did there, where somehow they made his son to be the son of his uh, what would that be, uncle? Yeah, the son of his uncle. Long dead uncle. That's bizarre. 35 years or something after he died, he became um, a father somehow. That's quite something, huh? That societies can do. Wow, that's one long progeny. Anyway, yeah, I'm confused honestly, but they should have mentioned here. Like, he apparently had lots of sisters. He had one here who was protective, apparently. I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right, but Huapyong. Yeah, and she apparently died young as well, 21 years of age, lost in childbirth, and yeah. Apparently, though, Youngyo was really teary somehow. Like, I keep reading here, like when his older son died, he was he mourned him for months apparently, and he mourned her as well. This is what I don't get. So I mean, if they really loved their daughters, why didn't they? Yeah. Um, I actually clarified a bit that Confucianism is apparently very paternalistic. Uh, no, I never quite realized that. I don't know. I thought it was something to do with just morals and whatnot, but nope, nope, nope. Apparently, yeah, the other guy that was mentioned there by him, what's he called again? He was an associate of Confucius. Despite Confucius being more well known, and the other guy that was mentioned in the series, that his son was studying, and he seems more sensible. Uh, his name escapes me for the moment, but yeah, he seemed more sensible. He was all about how a wrongful government should be overthrown, etc. So I'm surprised he was, or at least how China in this case, he was Chinese. How they, I guess, I don't know, how they allowed him because But this is the thing. There's so much that's revised here, really. Like I don't think the book ban really existed. But if it didn't exist, then did that thing exist as well with the exams? I mean, at this point, may as well consider this entirely fictional. Just it's a bit confusing. Maybe there are grains of truth, but in a way, sort of like Shingoku Basra as well, except without the animation and the fantastic frills and whatnot. Yeah, it is strange. They're both strange, I guess. But I mean, you sort of expect that from an anime. You expect the randomness, really. This though was presented so realistically. Honestly, it just I really didn't make sure that yeah, just who was young? Yeah, it's right. Mother. Yeah, he also had a mother that who was not mentioned at all, and apparently she was most well known for advising Yang to execute their son. And here it makes it seem like she wanted that to be done because she suffered from serious mental illnesses. But that's not said on every page. But earlier I read that apparently he went around randomly killing people and even raping. I guess that would make a good series and a good protagonist for a series, but I don't know what this is. Like, all right, I guess if you have a conspiracy theory, then I guess you can build a narrative based around it. But this is completely the opposite of what was purported to have happened. So, a bit. I don't know if you could call it propaganda. I guess it is quite confusing because actually, he, yeah, even with the king himself, Yango was supposedly well received. I think in present Korea, really, South Korea at least. Well, yeah. So it's a bit confusing because apparently, yeah. I mean, on at least on his article, it's not very long, so I might have excluded some things, but there's no mention of that second rebellion. The first one is real. What's it called again? Minson or something. But the second one, no mention. So I don't know. It's a bit of a strange thing, When I maybe I shouldn't watch revisionist historical drama. I don't know. But yeah, it makes for I guess interesting. But I don't know. Just I mean, if I'm watching something, like this is literally the first drama of its kind that I watch. Why shouldn't it be slightly more truthful? I guess one could say, like, just I don't know. Like, if that's completely though fictional, even that, when, where he struck down that villager Jin, what was it? Jidam's father. Just with a sword. That's the most awful, thing. I don't know. What's the point of that if it's fictional? I mean, I guess I'll just read a bit more and see if, but based on what there is to read right now. Although I haven't translated the Korean version yet. Um, well, based on that, it seems to be fictional, possibly, and so it's strange. I don't know why they included that. It does seem to be a bit propagandized. Like, I don't know. Maybe someone thought didn't like him. Like, yeah, he didn't seem to be like anything like the prince himself was depicted to be. So if he although there was this one sentence on the article here that confused me a bit. I'm not sure what it was supposed to say. Maybe it's just some strange language, really. But I can't believe even a pluviometer is featured here. Yeah, I don't think it was featured in the series. Just it's mentioned on the article here. Apparently, it was manufactured in quantity. I guess there was a lot of rain in Korea at that point. I don't know. Does rain? Does Korea receive a lot of rain these days? Yeah. Anyway, um, oh, so the thing is, I don't know. It's just so different from this series, you know. And here it says something strange here. Where is it? Fidelity. You know, just honestly, there's so little that's like here it says, you know, this is the thing. Bootlegging of books. That's the only thing, for example, that is similar to anything that happened in the series. Uh, well, I mean, you know, bootlegging. It doesn't quite say that they were illegal or anything. So I don't quite get why they did that. I mean, bootleg. I guess is sort of. I mean, I suppose it sort of implies. I suppose so. Maybe it was. Um, Apparently became commercialized as competition. Then it says so. I'm not sure if there's a difference between young bun and just young bun here. Apparently capitalized for some reason. Not sure. No, here it seems to say that it's the same thing. Young bun is the same. And yeah. So this implies that I don't know if then books were illegal for the lower classes, like as depicted. It just doesn't say it explicitly though. Yeah. Well, apparently, yeah, there was a competition here or something. Well, commercialized this competition. Uh, not entirely sure what the series does. Depict the competition. I don't think I mean quite does, but it, the series sort of implies that even them, you know, even the Solons and Nolans didn't exactly want a lot of books around. I don't know. Yep. But anyway, so the point is, nah, I don't know what the point of this is, honestly. Also, I mean, there's just so many differences. Yeah, like, and for example, I don't know why they didn't mention that, despite, I mean, being well received, I guess, I don't know, some sort of poll, I'm assuming. People are always weird and polls. But despite that, regardless of that, um, I mean, really, in my opinion, he didn't seem to be spectacular either, but not as awful as the series depicts him, I suppose. What it doesn't depict, though, is his persecution of Catholics, yeah. Yeah, he apparently was the one who outlawed it as an evil practice or whatever. Not that, I suppose it's. But I don't know what the point of it was then that, they did show the prince, right? Trying to be open-minded about it. So I don't know if they sort of they really try to make everything opposite or something. But well, not entirely opposite. I suppose they didn't literally go the other direction and say that Yang Yo was a lover of Catholicism. I think, but no, they seem. Well, they didn't say a prince was either. They just said that he looked into novel practices. Um, well, anyway, that was a very short venture anyway in the series. That is, but yeah, I'm just so confused. Honestly, I've never been this confused about something. Revisionist stuff is just strange. Also, what's strange is that it was mainly apparently the memoirs of his widow. So, the one that's depicted in the series, apparently called Hyeg Young. I don't quite remember the name from the series. Here it says it's from the Bang San Hong clan, which are a couple of words I don't quite recall either. So what I don't get is that her memoirs primarily say that he had problems and he truly committed crimes. So I don't know if they're trying to imply that despite her saying in the series that is, I will, do everything so you could, I don't know, you could, and she seemed to cry. I mean, well, they didn't, the actress at least cried uh, multiple times during the last episode. So obviously, there is quite a separation from reality and what's depicted in the series, but she's primarily the accuser in history, or the one that accuses him of, I'm assuming, the random killings and even rapes. I mean, I don't know. I was at one point. I was wondering if, and I'm assuming this is how I guess conspiracy theory came up. How, well, not so much that to be fair, it's sort of reasonable to assume, isn't it? Like, if he truly sided with the Saurons, and there was this whole power struggle, which I think was pretty much real. And Yengia himself is very much listed as a Noron, despite this in the series being depicted as pretty much loathing them. He loathed them, but I'm assuming, realistically, I mean, he might have, but I suppose he still sided with them in many cases, like in the series itself. Uh, so he loathed them, but he ended up signing with them because somehow things happened, and somehow the sons were ousted, etc. Because of various, yeah, what happened to them is actually sort of similar to what happened to the prince in the series, isn't it? In this sense. Um, but yeah, there's a lot that's just different. I mean, even the fate of Park Mun-soo here, well, isn't quite mentioned, but yeah. There's definitely much more about him in this series than there is elsewhere. And I tried to look him elsewhere as well, couldn't find much information, so yeah, in that sense, yeah, there's really just not much, yeah, there at all. Um, so yeah, what there is that's truthful pretty much is how there was a rumor that he poisoned his late brother, which was 4 years after he ascended the throne, and before he took over, etc. So there was this rumor, but I haven't read of anything coming out with those posters and then people being imprisoned and killed, or like depicted in the series. So I'm just confused. It really is quite confusing the way they made the series. Because at one point, I mean, as a character, Yengyo is quite complex, even in the series. So I don't know if, I mean, he was really as complex in real life. The article here isn't quite very long. As I said, I still need to read the longer articles elsewhere there that someone else, some individual wrote. I don't know as to their veracity, but they might they might be. Anyway, I'll check later. But in terms of this article, there isn't that much in terms of. There's just yeah. He did have a huge, very much huge family, very much huge. I don't get what's happening with the because they said that his, I think, first wife, or was she because they said that his first wife was that, no, I think died. When he said she died, like most of the series they depict him alone, until the second wife came into the picture, and apparently that's real. There apparently might have really happened when he asked her what's the deepest thing in the universe or whatever the noun was, and she actually said the human heart. That might have really happened. Might have. At this point, who knows really? But apparently, the so-called annals of the Joseon dynasty are the longest continual period of a single dynasty in the world. So I'm assuming everyone knows Korean. There is a lot of information. 1893. That's about. I don't know how long each volume is, but that's well, for I guess. Okay, what was it like? 700 years or something. I guess that's fair enough for 700 years. And yeah, it's very very ironic, by the way, that I mean, if indeed they did have, well, I'm assuming they, these these people just going about. Uh, Apparently, what wasn't depicted in the series was him thinking that they didn't have good harvest because his character is, honestly, this makes him seem like some sort of clown. But I guess, yeah, people from ancient times did really think that somehow their personality reflected onto the weather somehow. Makes very little sense, but they did somehow. By the way, the names were so similar. Like, why? Why? Literally, he only changes. His successor only changes one letter at the beginning. So it goes from Yengyo to Jengyo. Like, seriously? Don't have any other letters? I wonder if this is the same thing. I mean, I cannot read Korean at all. So I wonder if literally just one letter changes as well. Um, might be slightly more complex than that, but who knows. Otherwise, though, I don't think it's just an alphabet. It'd be weird if they were all like Yangbuang or Buangguo, Kyangyo, Dangyo, Yangyo, Mangyo, Nangyo, But no. The begins with Taejo, Zhongjong, Taejong, Sejong. But yeah, there was still a thing, isn't there? Before they got to Jo, they were Jong. Of course, there's Kim Jong Un these days. Munjong, Danjong. So, but then we go with Sergio for some reason. Sergio. That's I don't know why, but a bit of a odd one out situation. Seventh, apparently. Seventh. I really don't know why. I'm interested in this, like, under normal circumstances, I would not be interested in such matters at all. But, I've watched the series, I might as well just read a bit, I suppose. In, oh, yeah, the whole thing, I don't know why anyone indeed ever wanted to ever be because, yeah, there's crews and there's everything, and yeah, I guess there's a Sergio because he led a coup. So I guess it's like, yeah, I'm a Sergio. I might not be a Jung, but I can coup your government. Yeah. The politics were weird back then, because these days, even if indeed monarchs somehow still exist, such an antiquated concept, really. But even if they do, well, they usually do in most cases. I think these days, with a democratic background, so you get an elected politician, a bunch of them, but primarily an elected, and along with, yeah, back then, I guess, I don't know. I guess the equivalent of the PM or president was Kim Take's character, assuming. But yeah, that guy just totally just disappeared from the equation, even though he was like, yeah, I'll get you. For, just what? He wasn't even there at the end. So he could have just came in and said, "See, I got you, even though I didn't do anything at all. But I get you. Yeah, I guess that would make the series comedic, I suppose. So yeah, makes a little sense. Um, yeah. By the way, it's his actor is a rock musician. So I'm just trying to imagine Kim Taek as a rock musician. I will overpower you with the sound of this guitar. I don't know if they made him a bit. I don't know if they. Yeah, they did say they used CGI. Of course, of course. Actually, was it really CGI? I think it was more like uh, some sort of prop, wasn't it? I don't know. At the end, though, honestly, at the end, the last 10 minutes, I didn't think they did it very well. It was really they didn't do very well. Yeah, I don't think it did. Like, yeah, I've seen a biopic of FBI founder, and they didn't do that very well either. You know, when they make them look like candles or something. Like I know what they're trying to do with old people looking the way they, but it's not really very realistic. It's sometimes they go too far. And sure enough, I mean, for most of the series, they just replace characters to indicate. As I say, I always say that the Jidam being replaced was idiotic. 'Cause, I know she was well she in real life she was what, like 13 or 14 there at the beginning, and then they just got someone who was like 3 4 years older. Um, so yeah, great, I guess, passing of time and all, but she didn't look like him, right? So what's the point of that? I don't think people change that much. I really don't think they do. On the other hand, sure, they do when they become 80 from 60, which is what they try to depict at the end there with Young. But they do sometimes go overboard with the makeup, and I think they did. But I mean, it's sort of better than, I guess, replacing. Obviously, they didn't want to replace him with someone else for the last 10 minutes, and if they did, he probably wouldn't have resembled very much him. And obviously, he would probably lack all the mannerisms. This was the actress problem as well. And I know they tried to make her seem like she just changed personality-wise as well after the death of her father, but I mean she changed too much. And yeah, sure enough, she doesn't smile a single of the time, which is always weird, because when you see then the person in real life smiling, it's really unrecognizable as well. Just I have no idea who most of these people are. Most of the pictures here of them smiling, and I have no idea who they are. They really do not smile at all in this series, do they? In fact, the only one who smiles pretty much was the prince, for some reason, despite. Um, so yeah, it was a really strange series. And as I was going to say, it's ironic that they were all worried that Lobos will take over, when in reality, what happened is apparently Japan taking over, and they abolished their monarchy. Seems like, and somehow it never got back up or anything. Of course, there's still pretenders, but it never properly, yeah. So that's ironic because it was no law, and they should have learned their lesson. Actually, I read that there was another time when, in fact, some faction, I forgot the details right now, but some faction favored one person over another, and because they were anti-Manchu, I think it was, yeah, anti-Manchu. I didn't go too deep into it, but apparently they were pro-Ying and anti-Manchu, which I was a bit confused about because I thought they were like Chinese dynasties that just replaced each other, not like separate Chinese dynasties. But I really don't know much about Chinese history, so cannot tell really much. But yeah, because of that thought, they were invaded by the Manchu dynasty twice. So yeah, sometimes political factions really ruin it, and they should have learned. I think that was before everything that happened in the series, so they should have learned from that and changed their course. But no, they never learn, do they? No, never learn. Um, well, I don't know what to learn. I guess it's just political factions as usual, vying over somehow. But honestly, I don't get what it was about. Like, he kept on saying, "Oh, I cannot save my son. If I cannot do that, then what can I do? I'm supposed to be, the most, whatever he said at the end there, last episode. I don't get it. And if he wanted to, I mean, I don't know if this really happened for real. Like, the end episode specifically, but happened in terms of that box. That box was so weird. I suppose many people also asked what on earth it was. I didn't expect a box. And indeed, it was, as I thought later on, uh, very awful, but strange. I don't think that was anything that was usually used in history, was it? Just the box? Huh. Well, anyway, yeah, so, that apparently really happened, though. It's just one thing that happened, but I don't know if many other things happened as well. It seems like not. Apart from the beginning, as I said, as in, before Yangyo, what happened there? I think, yeah, before was pretty much thing accurate from what was described, of course, because that was, yeah, one thing that they missed that I wouldn't have minded to see is how at one point, actually, what was it? I think it was the neurons. They tried to kill him, and I don't know. It was the sons. Right, it was the sons. So that might have been a bit more propaganda, I guess. The fact that they didn't mention it, and the fact that they mostly painted the sons as being benevolent, I suppose. Which I always thought it was a bit strange because, they sound a lot like Sauron, from Lord of the Rings, who wasn't benevolent. But yeah, apparently there was this incident with a white fox. I'm not sure why white, but I guess maybe they wanted it to be metaphorical or something. Um, uh, and they tried to use it as a pretext to assassinate him, but his queen, the Dowager, in one protected him. So those were the songs apparently. So it's not just, you know I know this is a strange series. Honestly, I suppose this is pretty much historical fiction. I mean, it's weird when you get this though. Like, yeah, I like fiction, but why so much that's different? Like, you get bits and pieces that are real, so much that isn't. Like, what's the point? Yeah, what's the point? I just I don't get it. so much that's missing that I wouldn't have minded to see, yeah, just his spouse, right? His no, Sado's mother. Yeah, I don't know why they missed so much. I mean, his mother died after uh, uh, I don't know why they say Crown Princess reign as well. They don't reign actually, do they? Anyway, so yeah, she 62. She only died actually 2 years after, but she was, I mean, 68 at that point apparently. But this it just like with Sengoku Bus, I really hate how they exclude some really crucial characters. I mean, if she literally advised his father, Younger, to execute their own son, surely she should have been in the series, right? Regardless of, I mean, one might argue none of the daughters were in the series because they're not, I guess they weren't quite, even though, I mean, the one with who wants to give birth to the future prince and possible king, was there, even though I'm not even sure. Well, I haven't quite read that much, I guess, but I mean, there were lots of extras, sort of, so why not his daughters? Why not his, Saddle's mother, more crucially? Anyway, I'll just read a bit more now. And yeah, I pretty much have the same opinion. But actually, the more I read, the more confused I am. I mean, when you say revisionist, usually I don't know, maybe you change like I don't know one thing, maybe one central thing even. But I don't think they normally change like the whole thing. They entire structures. Like there's very little that is truthful apart from, well, alright, there are the central characters. It's truthful. But even then, I mean, it just distorts the truth so much. Like, I think one of the worst things I've read, worst in comparison to history, that is the fact that being Yang really existed. She was someone he killed. I mean, I don't know what this is. Is this like an attempt at just raw propaganda, possibly? Because you say, I don't know, just he always seemed to really want to help everyone, though, right? That's clear. And so I don't get what the point of this was. What's the point of making him like that? It is like, and I'm not sure if I said, but it does seem to imply the opposite of both. I mean, I don't know. It seems like generally his father was seen, especially historically, is seen in a favorable light. It seems, although I don't think he was perfect or anything either. But although there wasn't that much about him, but there actually wasn't much about Sado either. So yeah, I did read though the article that his wife wrote after he died, which is where most of history has been established. Although, of course, she's writing it, and she's writing it in order to absolve her family, etc., from it, and because apparently her was it not her father? No, I think her uncle and her brother were killed. Like there was so much that happened in the series, but some crucial aspects weren't mentioned at all, like this one. I mean, I don't understand how, if your uncle and brother are killed, I mean, brother, right? Which, one would expect. I don't get how she got to be in her position. I don't get that. So, yeah, I'm seriously confused about a lot of things. Like, as a standalone narrative, it is interesting, It's riveting, as I think I've said in the past, but, researching it makes me confused. Because, I mean, I don't know, it seems to be inspired by history, but really not much more than that at all. As in, I don't think it was very accurate, apart from a few things, I don't think it was. Like even the fact that it seems like Kim Take was fictional, was thinks he was fictional. Uh, you know, presented his arguments as to why they think he was fictional. I think fairly convincing arguments, but yeah, I I don't get why they'd make him so prominent as a fictional character, though. I mean, saying that, of course, something like Rose of Versailles did have the very protagonist, who was fictional, but she was sort of there in the background, not so much. It didn't so much, I mean, this guy was supposed to be killing people to turn plot points to empower himself. So I mean, he very much was active in what he was doing, whereas Oscar in Rose of Versailles was really just. I mean, she was supposed to be a soldier, so very much in the background. So sort of like the eunuchs, in this series. She was kind of like one of those, It's so it doesn't really too much. I did, by the way, feel sorry for that guy at the end there. It's one of those things that happens. I mean, yeah, you know, we've seen him for quite a long time, and suddenly he's just cut down like that brutally. I mean, he was probably fictional as well, but when it happens, in drama, I mean, this is in total 24 hours. So a whole day of watching. I mean, I didn't literally watch it in one day, obviously, but in total, yeah, it's 24 hours. So and we've known him for a while. So I mean, of all the people, thought that you know, I don't think he really deserved such a fate. I mean, he was quite like the worst he did is when he was sort of a bit savage and trying to find something in the room there. But everything he did was what asked of him, really. So I'm just saying, they should have really um, taken him away or something. And it's not like he had weapons. I'm assuming though, the screenwriter, whoever did that, so we wouldn't feel too bad about what was he called, Cha something, the one who looked like a ninja, and his army. So we wouldn't feel so bad when they themselves later soon cut down. But I don't know if that works sort of like that. It's the ending was certainly intense. It doesn't, in my opinion, though, make me think, oh, this was a truly good series. I mean, when there's violence involved, I do not just automatically think it's positive. And it happened at the very end, and of course, saying that, um, how it ended then with Sado just climbing into a crate. That was quite anticlimactic. Like, how did that happen? Yeah, I understand. It parallels history, which was still a strange thing. I've seriously never heard of it before. I guess some people might think it's brutal, but I don't know. I suppose even more brutal, one could say, to be, you know, stabbed or something. Apparently, they did that so a royal wouldn't be officially defiled, because otherwise their family would also be, yeah, the thing that they had, that many societies had, where somehow the families are at fault as well. That's so horrid. Like, how on earth, anything that would implicate anyone else, despite not, I mean, what on earth did they expect? For them to control whoever, how on earth can anyone control it? And there's obviously still elements of that currently in society as well. Most of them aren't official, as in, within law, like it was in the past, but there are elements. Like currently, there's even children being affected, just because some politicians think that children could somehow be a risk. That's quite something, right? Politicians thinking that. Oh yeah, yeah. I don't think even if you have a million children, they could ever be riskier than a single modern politician. Generally, yeah. It's very, very funny, very ironic when they think that. But there isn't. I don't think there is, so even in modern times, like a whole scale savagery that there was. Like even if they weren't killed themselves, and apparently they were in the past historically. But just as shown in the series, they might end up. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, just horrid, really. They're just a seriously dire, horrid state. I mean, I don't know what else to say about that. It's just horrid, and of course, it's the main reason why Younger wanted his grandson to be adopted. It's very weird. He was adopted by an uncle that died at what 14 years before he died or something, before he was born, I mean. Yeah, very weird, but I guess it works legally, I guess. Might as well then, suppose. It's quite strange though, how some things work, and honestly, sometimes you can barely believe that some things happened as they did, right? I mean, yeah, just, of course, this is the problem though with this specific series, as in, we do not know that any of this really happened. Like, when you get something that's revision, it's like, you need to know what exactly is real, but everything seems to be here. So I really can't trust anything. Like, I read, so I know basically what was real, what wasn't, but there's a lot that wasn't real. So then the bits that I didn't read about at all, that weren't confirmed either way, I would just assume were false, where it didn't happen, because so much else didn't happen. So it's very difficult to see any of this happening if not officially confirmed. That is. And of course, what did happen wasn't shown at all. Yeah, there weren't even hints of his madness, pretty much. I mean, if I had to guess, I wouldn't have guessed it. I mean, I didn't really know anything about him before, but I wouldn't have guessed it at any rate. There weren't even, like, you get Sengoku Basu, and there are elements of reality. I mean, it's still very much unreal as well, but there are elements. But there aren't really many elements here. I mean, yeah, there are elements in the sense that of um, yeah, mm, like when they keep on going about how they want equality and such. There's those elements, but other than that, though, I mean, it's very hard to see what there is. 'Cause then you get also, right? Um, well, things that obviously differ from reality. I mean, if Sado was indeed killed because he actually was a serial murderer, and at one point apparently he beheaded some eunuch and showed it to his wife as well somehow for some reason. So it's really bizarre, And honestly, if anyone tries to excuse that by saying, "Oh, his father scolded him," I mean, there is no direct connection, is there now? Yeah, I don't think. Anyway, so yeah, that's the thing. I mean, but yeah, this is the thing. I didn't even read about like if if he was imprisoned at any point, like he was in the series, for other reasons. So the articles, admittedly, aren't too long, but I didn't read he was. So they went as if they went straight from yeah being totally free man, and to going in a box. So quite extreme, I suppose. I could say quite extreme. Um, that's what happened in real life, right? But as I say, there isn't much because apparently the records that the official scribe made were asked to be deleted by Yi-sang, his son, because I don't know. I assume he thought it would yeah it would besmirch his father's reputation. I don't get it. I mean, if your father is a serial killer, I think at that point the train for reputation had already what is the boat for reputation already sailed long ago sailed. Yeah. So this is the problem. Um, it's a bit difficult to see what's real and what's not. I like seeing all the costumes and whatnot, but that's not the point, is it? I mean, if I had to choose, I'd watch something that is possibly yeah. And this is the thing, of all the things they could have included with regards to fiction, what they didn't include is anything that is sort of supernatural. Unlike, for example, Sengoku which did. I mean, why not? I mean, obviously that's animation, so it's slightly different, but they could still do something, I think. But they really didn't bother with any of that. And they could have actually, because in real life, apparently, in real life, they thought that someone, I forgot who right now, yeah, they thought that someone related to Sado, I think, um, cursed. I think was it his adopted mother. I think. Yeah, they thought, and they even found a shrine or something. I read. So they could have really included that, made have a supernatural sort of bent to it. It would have been, but they didn't bother. They just didn't want to do that at all, apparently, which is really sort of depressing, I guess you could say. I mean, not the. I mean, no, they just lost an opportunity. This obviously that wasn't the right word at all.
Um, but it would have been more exciting if they did include supernatural stuff. That's all I'm saying. But I guess that's just subjective. I guess. I am sort of, I suppose, more interested in that. No, they played it really direct. They made it a political drama, but honestly, I think the point is they might have as well just made it totally fictional, like not even bothered naming the characters after historical figures because it's pretty much fictional. I mean, there's elements in the there's element of reality to Yango himself, but I'm not even sure actually how much. Like, did the thing happen where he cut down, a so-called rebel, Jidam's father? Did this happen? Because if it did, then he was a horrid monarch, right? Just absolutely horrid. And there's no way anyone could say this person actually that wrote these pages online. At one point, I tried to argue that he was a good monarch, as if somehow he completely blanked out the fact that Jidam's father was killed in front of, well, not technically in front, but anyway, so that's the point. But I certainly didn't find anything that correlates to any historical reality for that, which is idiotic, really, because that's supposed to be one of the most prominent things that happened in the series, And if there isn't any parallel to reality, then was the point of being there? Yeah, kind of like something else that happens in Kobasra, but somehow, something that they uh, created pathos over, which didn't really happen. But that's anyway its own thing. So it's a problem. I don't know. I mean, because I just cannot believe that he's seen in a good light. And but then I'm thinking, if he is, does that mean people think that it was fine for that? But in all likelihood, of course, as I said, the default is to think that things didn't happen because so much didn't happen. That then I assume the default is that it didn't happen. So I'm assuming this didn't happen, but I'm not sure either. So yeah, a bit a difficult thing. This series turned out to be, honestly. Not entirely sure why, but so yeah, I just one other things I didn't include as well. So, as I say, sort of like Singapore, with regards to the son of what was he called again now? Oh, never mind. Anyway, yeah. I mean, they did include one son, but apparently he had multiple. I mean, yeah, there were some that died early on, so they simply thought, well, it didn't do much impact. But they didn't even mention them. Like, they could have mentioned them to have added an extra layer to the whole thing. They didn't even bother doing that. Like, he, as opposed to Yang Yo mentioning the son he had before he had Sada, and yeah, Sada isn't actually his actual name. They just gave him that. Apparently means with great sorrow or something. Yeah, and yeah. By the way, the very last so-called emperor of Korea. I'm not sure at that point. It's very very desperate sort of institution, very sort of sad in a way because for most of the Joseon dynasty, for most of the years when it existed, which is quite a lot, I'm not saying it's not a lot, even though there were these frequent deposals and such. So yeah, it's about 600 years, I think. I think around is it? I think around the same time as is it around? No, I think it's yeah, it is slightly more actually than
the Edo era in Japan. It's as far as I know, I cannot really compare with China. I haven't delved into that really so far. I'm sure I will at some point, but so I'm just saying, so they lasted for so long, just being plain monarchs, right? Um, but somehow to show some sort of, I don't know, weird thing about superiority. So yeah, I mean at the beginning of 1900s, I think Japan threatened Korea, which was of course unified at that point. So both North and South Korea. Um, so yeah, Japan threatened it, and that's when somehow the monarch became an emperor, as it happens. Which is quite weird because normally I always thought emperors happen when you got more than one country um, within purview, I'm assuming. But no, in Korea it worked the other way around. I don't think was any other country other than Korea. Um, but he declared himself emperor as if to, like a peacock to fluff his feathers. And that's when yeah, that's when the monarchy fell. After Japan took over, annexed it, then I think there was some other step before that. Actually, is there? No, no. Yeah, I think annexation is pretty much it, isn't it? It's when you like like what's it called in Ukraine right now? Yeah. So is it Sevastopol? Oh, I forgot. Anyway, yeah. So I'm just saying they annexed Korea, and that is when that then or maybe a bit earlier they made a bunch of people uh, emperor in name only, pretty much. And Sado was one of them, along with his wife, apparently, as if to say, "Oh look, how many emperors that we had! Even those, you know, royal people who never actually became monarchs are emperors now somehow, even though we're about to be annexed." It really reeks of desperation, doesn't it? Just saying. I mean, as opposed to Japan, then with Japan you get shoguns, but the emperor is still in the background. Somehow they tolerate the emperor in the background, just there. Even though currently the emperor still claims to have reigned for 1,000 years or something, but that's not real. Because shoguns had great, I think, the majority of those years. Almost, I think it's the majority. Even before the Edo era, there were other eras of which I forgot right now. Mostly I have seen just single Basra, so I'm mostly familiar with the Edo era. But yeah, it's quite strange how these things occur, how they evolve. Yeah, overall, I mean, even though this was not really the best historical source or anything, I mean, based on a conspiracy theory, so on that basis, it's not really. It's more. I mean, you'd call it sci-fi if it had any sort of science, I guess. But yeah, it is pretty much fiction. But yeah, other than that, though, all I'm saying is that they do at least have some uh, pretty pictures, I guess. I mean, I'm not saying it's the best reason for really watching it, but sometimes the visuals can be interesting. Like, I once played this video game called Rogue Galaxy, and yeah, it was visually brilliant. It didn't exactly have the most complex, the most intricate, the most amazing story. It was kind of yeah, it was kind of stereotypical, but it had atmosphere. Yeah, it had atmosphere plenty. Yeah, I mean, this series kind of has an atmosphere of its own as well, not the same thing, obviously, but yeah, I suppose it sort of does. Um, Other than that, though, all the weird historical oddities. I mean, they try to be accurate in terms of what they dressed like and such, which is weird because dress isn't even very important ultimately. With regards to history at least, it's sort of an extra sort of but somehow they seem to think that yep, dress. Let's make dress accurate. Well, I think it is accurate at least. It seems accurate. I mean, I've seen pictures of some of the series and movies which are set in the same era, obviously, and they were pretty identical. So on that front, I think they were accurate. I'm not sure though. I really have no expertise on fashion whatsoever. So especially Korean, I really don't have anything at all. So anyway, I'm just saying they did focus. They did seem to focus on the way they were and the background environments as well. Wallpaper and everything seems fairly seemed fairly accurate. I'm not sure ultimately as well, but it seemed to me to be accurate. But what wasn't accurate is the narrative, which is a problem. I'm not saying they shouldn't have tackled and adapted the conspiracy theory itself, but they should have at least had some hints that it is such a thing. Obviously, there could be people watching it without, I don't know, bothering to read at all, which would be a bit absurd for supposedly historical drama. But this is the thing. The reason, is there a reason why they did this? Could it have been an effort at propaganda? At this point, doesn't really matter, does it? This is long history, but somehow they painted him in some sort of angelic fashion. And when in reality, I mean, he was like, I don't know. I mean, it sounds like as bad as any other serial killer. So honestly, I don't know why they did this. I mean, there's no hints. I mean, I'm sure there's other media that is does tackle the reality of what he was really like. But the fact that there wasn't even a hint here, yeah, a bit of a missed opportunity, I guess, because you could always have hints. Like it can be interesting actually. Like I've seen the offshoot of Sengoku Basra as well, Gakuen Basra, which is obviously as far away from reality as can be. It's literally transports the historical characters in a high school. So on that front, pretty sure they don't know, not even sure that high schools existed at that point either. Yeah, it being a warring period and all. So anyway, the point is, it wasn't really reality or anything. What it did though is create fiction out of the paralleled reality. So yeah, for example, somebody hates another character, and they create a reason for it within the context, within so an in-universe reason to why characters like some of the characters. But in reality, it was because they were defeated by them in real life. So that's a parallel fiction that is actually entertaining. This I don't know. I don't quite see how it contributes towards any sort of historical discussion, mostly. Because, what I mostly know about history now, I've read, so essentially I haven't seen it. I haven't seen history at all. I've just seen fiction based on history, but it's not really, doesn't even parallel history, it's just pure fiction. And it being based on as far as I know, a conspiracy theory only goes so far. That he was killed because of the opposing factions, etc. Which as far as conspiracy theories go, isn't too far fetched. But well, unless his former wife was really lying throughout. I think there were several other. Well, I think there were other sources. I'm not sure though. If there indeed were. Apparently, the conspiracy theory began actually when she was still alive. So she tried to debunk them when she was still alive. And that is a thing, mainly because the official documents were destroyed. So that's why you really shouldn't destroy any official documents. Conspiracies will arise. Of course, many documents these days aren't necessarily destroyed. I'm sure some are, but most are just, for some reason, just let to just be secret for a while, apparently. Then after some ridiculous periods, after everyone alive at that point had died, usually, they're released. Like I think the JFK, I think there's some JFK papers were released recently. I think they were, not sure. But yeah, it's a problem, isn't it? Because then you end up with lots of speculation, as it happened here. But does it need to happen? If you can prevent it from happening, what do you want to? I suppose in a way, though, his son wanting records destroyed to achieve what he set out to achieve. To somehow urge people to think more highly of his father. Because otherwise they just simply go along with the record that his wife wrote, his mother. Apparently he might have disliked his mother a bit in reality later on. I'm sure that is depicted in some other drama as well that I haven't seen yet of his son. I'm not going to watch anytime soon. I think you just need a break sometimes. I've just begun a completely totally opposite sort of series now, because after 24 hours of thrill and rivet, if rivet is indeed a noun, you need something much low powered. In fact, I already went past, like, I don't know, I think I already watched like 10 hours of all things Friends. It's a totally different series, of course. It is actually much longer, but totally different series. It's so much easier to watch. Besides the fact, obviously, one doesn't need to read subtitles, which obviously requires more processing power. Not that I don't mind. I mean, I actually, as usual, I still have subtitles, but it's easy, obviously. It being English, I don't need to make sure I understand completely. Of course, it I mean, um, with non-English subtitles, there was a risk, like there was a bit here, of the subs being not totally accurate. Yeah, that's a problem. The ones that I watched weren't too bad, but weren't perfect either. In fact, with regards to the series, Secreto, they was a problem. It was like a Rubik's cube. I mean, it's often a problem, honestly. But the subtitles that seemed to be better had horrible video quality, and the video quality that was better had worse subtitles. Luckily, they weren't too bad. It's always positive, really. I mean, there was much worse, much worse. Like I once tried to watch that Alice, whatever it was, really weird movie I commented on also. The first subtitles I got were horrid, absolutely horrid. Luckily, there was both a good quality video source and better subtitles. So, I ended up watching this though. Yeah, a bit of a mixture. I didn't mind the video quality, but the subs weren't too bad either. So, in that sense, there was just a few words that were a bit strange. I couldn't quite understand. But then what I did is go to the other source with worse video, specifically to read the words. Annoyingly though, they also didn't translate some of the Korean subtitles they had as well. In fact, they didn't translate most of it, if not all. Well, nothing nearly all, yeah. But the other source didn't translate all of it either, but it did translate some that I caught at least. So very annoying when that happens. And I don't know what I did at one point, but I ended up screenshotting a bunch of the text to possibly, if ever, translate using some sort of image translating site. It's really annoying. There's, doesn't often happen usually. You don't get text within the language that they're speaking that's supposed to be translated. But there was here. Somehow it wasn't translated. I mean, I understand most of it. Most of it just simply said, like library, palace, and such. But I still like to know. I don't want to just assume. Yeah, in the end, you just get used to the places. I still hate the fact that they didn't translate it. And some of it clearly had some other things that I mean, I'm sure I still got the main story at any rate. The source actually these subtitles I mostly watched because of the higher video quality. Did have a few bits, a few seconds that were missing at some point, which I also did got the source to fill in. But there was one episode in the other source which was skipped. One episode was skipped. I don't know what the hell did it, but just before the envoys came, yeah, somehow they skipped the episode before, so ended up. And I didn't watch it or anything. I just but that means that the episode then somehow turned out to have a lot of missing subs for a few seconds at least, a whole episode. And I still haven't seen them because I haven't found a source which doesn't skip the episode. It's really bizarre. This other source with better video quality doesn't skip the episode, but it skips a few steps. So yeah, it's a Rubik's cube all over. I mean, I really dislike when it just happens. When you cannot find something that's just perfect. Yeah? Which is why sometimes I just want to just go back to some old. Well, I don't know about old because old also has problems finding subs and obviously video quality for. But yeah, I don't know. Sometimes I just want to and not rely on translators, and go for drama or sitcoms. In this case, with a language that doesn't need translation, but I still have subs on, so as to not miss anything as usual. But at least you got two sources then. Unless I knew Korean, I only got the capability that there is within the subs. If they just happen to just skip subs because yeah, why not? Let's skip, and then let's not let anyone else fix them. Anyway, yeah, I'm just saying if that's such a thing, then not much I can do. But from trying to find some other source that does have them. But yeah, it's very annoying how this happens. This source that I watched, that I mostly watch, also has this thing with if you press a button and the menu comes up. So, I'm just saying it's not perfect, and I wasn't able to take gifs, unfortunately. I still need to find another source for gifs. It's a problem because this didn't have any logos, but the lower quality ones, and they're lower quality already, but they're not just lower quality videos. They have like 3 logos, like 3. Like why on earth would anyone go, oh, let's have 3 logos? Like what's next? Like a whole screen full of logos? Like what's the point of that? I don't mind if there's like 1 logo and it's transparent or something, but 3, and often they're not transparent. Oh no! So you got some logos that are just bright red. Like seriously, totally ruins the experience. And obviously, it being a poor video quality as well. It's just really bad quality on top of bad quality, essentially. So yeah, I still need to take gifs along with translating all the little things that weren't translated, or at least half of the ones that did exist. That I don't know. I suddenly thought of just starting to screenshot them halfway through for some reason. I just want to confirm that indeed it wasn't too crucial. Hopefully, it wasn't like whoa, let's read their minds. Yeah, the king is really thinking this, not this. I'd be furious if they didn't bother translating that. That would be really essential. But no, I doubt it's that. And assuming, pretty sure it's just castle, library, etc. Yeah. But yeah, I also need to find some video sources to take gifs for. Hopefully, don't have a million logos. It's going to be difficult, I guess. Suppose maybe I should not bother caring about logos, I guess. At least the source I watched didn't have logos, so that's what really matters. Then I suppose, I suppose a few seconds of logos won't necessarily destroy anyone's mentality, I guess. Yeah, I'm overthinking it. I guess I'll just go with logos. This is of course just for the video portion. The podcast certainly has no logos. I don't know why logos exist, honestly, generally, but whatever. But yeah, otherwise, it was, as a series, an interesting, one could say, an interesting thing. The politics was interesting, I went away thinking about it like, you know, uh, it's a paradox of tolerance, right? I think it's an example of paradox of tolerance. At the very end, when the guy who looked like a ninja, Chow Jojo, what is he called? Chow. I really cannot pronounce Korean names. In comparison, Japanese names are much easier to pronounce. So anyway, that guy who looks like a ninja with an army behind him, you know, I don't get it. He should have went along with what he thought. Of course, none of this seemed to happen for real. I mean, you know, they did apparently think that he might be thinking of assassinating his father, but I'm not sure what evidence there was. I don't think they found any army in reality. But that's as far as it's not like I read the whole memoir or anything. I just read the article on it, which was still sort of lengthy, but obviously not comprehensive like the memoir itself is. Um, so I'm not sure if any of this. I'm just unless I'm going to spend the next 30 years studying this. This is as much research as I'm going to do. I mean, I only pretty much researched the Edo era a couple of years ago for a few weeks as well, I think, but best. So I'm no historian after this. I like to have like a superficial knowledge, I guess, of certain things that when I watch. But yeah, superficial is where it's at. I mean, just I don't know the language. I barely. I know this was the first historical K drama, but this is the problem. It wasn't even most of it wasn't based on reality, so it's a problem. Yeah. But anyway, with regards to the fiction anyway itself, with regards to the series itself specifically, I think you should have went with what he because that's part of the tolerance, isn't it? Like his father wasn't totally corrupt, but he was like I don't know. He kept on giving in to the normals, so he should have really I mean, at the end, he said, if they pressure him any further about his grandson, there'll be war. But I mean, why couldn't have been war about this as well? I don't know, you know, like in reality, historically, there seemed to be, a much more. It was sort of. I mean, I don't know. It would have been best, I guess, to just in prison the person, but this on the hand, yeah, I mean, I don't know, it makes very little sense, I mean, they practically made him a martyr. Like, what's the point of this entire series, 24 hours, on making him a martyr? But this is, I mean, of course, historically, a serial killer, so I'm not sure, entirely sure why that happened. If it was, though, just fiction, it was very frustrating just to see him say that, he didn't want, after all, to overthrow his father. Because it is a part of the tolerance. It's not about if you don't necessarily mm, well, it is a paradox. That's for sure. Um, but otherwise, yeah, it's a strange thing. Of course, I mean, I think ideally there's no such thing as a monarchy at all, really. But and of course there isn't. It's very funny how it happened in Korea. So essentially, Japan pretty much forced its hands, so it abolished the monarchy, and then that's pretty much it. They didn't bother doing it again. Of course, hopefully they still won't bother because the so-called his let's just say I don't know if he would be as bad as Sado was supposedly historically, but he'd be close possibly than he would be to the fictional Sado. But anyway, I'm just saying, yeah, it's I don't know, it's always so idiotic to really just have this. Like, what's the point of any of this really? And obviously the concept of very unique as well, the most absurd thing. I don't know why they did this. Apparently they did it all over China as well and such. Um, yeah, it's really bizarre. Currently, neither China nor Korea has them, apart from, of course, nominal figureheads. I mean, there's still Kim Jong Un, who pretty much acts like one, and of course, there's an emperor in Japan still. But more of a nominal figure, I suppose. But there is still, that's the point, and there really shouldn't be. And whether I mean, it's an absolute monarchy or not, there really shouldn't be. Obviously, that would be worse. But what's the point of a figurehead? There's really no point. But just if they cannot do anything as well, not have them, right? Somehow, yeah. It's just don't get it. Um, And while this series was interesting, it still had some sort of low points, like weak points, boring points, like when they started to talk about text. Like I cannot believe I'm watching a series about text. And that really happened. That's actually one of the few real things that happened. So I guess it's a good thing they included it. I'm not sure if they went along too much of it, but I didn't read anything about the envoys either, so I'm not even sure if that happened. I mean, they had some wars in the past, but I'm not entirely sure that specifically happened. I don't think. I'm not sure Sado was diplomatic with envoys. I didn't read that he wasn't, at least. I'm sure there might have been. I don't know. It's very confusing, the whole thing. It's quite confusing. It's yeah. There could have been a few more truths in this fiction, I think.